good afternoon, everyone. I'm so happy to see you, and I'm so happy to be here. And I got here on time. Yay! That is an occasion. As everyone that has known me very long, and it actually was one of my birthrights. I do not understand time. I don't. I never have. I try really hard. I understood by living in the world that it was run on something called time. And I've been trying to catch it ever since. Sometimes with more success than others. I'm going to share a little bit about a vision. I used to do vision boards all the time. I've always had a vision. I am going to digress just a little bit and share some of the beginningness. I was born in West Virginia, and it was the strangest place to be that I could ever have imagined. I could not imagine why I was there. I'm from birth. I was a stranger in a strange place. And people talked funny. They acted strange. It was just weird. I didn't realize that I was the weird one. Everyone else was just strange. One of the situations that happened that I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I knew it was time for me to get out of there. I mean, I had known it forever, but it was serious. So there was a Lincoln Continental that came. I was in this little coal mining town. You didn't see Lincoln Continentals. But it was so pretty, and it had a New York license plate. I tried so hard to get that trunk open. I used a rock. I probably really scraped it up. And my father, fortunately, saw me and came over to find out what in the world was going on. And I said, I have to get out of here. And this car is going somewhere. And I really want to be in it. And so he persuaded me quickly that that was not a really good idea. However, very, very soon after that, one of his many, many, many talents, he was a certified welder. And he got a job in Baltimore, Maryland. As a welder in a shipyard. So I went to the city, and it was 3 years of absolute delightful learning opportunities. I was free my mother didn't think I was, but I was free to roam the city. It was delightful. Many, many situational things like that have occurred in my life. West Virginia, back in the day, there were very strong racial divides. Like there was a road that went, White Town was here and Black Town was there, and never the twain shall meet. Well, I found myself a delightful, wonderful, warm, loving granddad and grandma, Black grandma and granddad. He was the mine keeper, so he was right at the end of the road. And that was my safe spot. I mean, anytime, and they were always happy to see me. He would rock me and tell me stories, and they'd bring me cookies, and there was always something cooking in that house. Every time I went there, the aroma of food and the warmth was just, I live it. I mean, I can live it right now. and do. I am, as a matter of fact, and it's wonderful. So anyhow, from that opportunity, I became a part of Blacktown. I never saw another that I recall, a white person there, but they also didn't see me as different. So I was able to really become immersed in the culture. And then the white town tried to convince me that Blacktown was bad. And I knew it. I mean, I really knew it, so they couldn't convince me of that. And I'll skip forward a couple of miles. Eventually, after Baltimore, we came back. And then my dad went in service. So I was back in West Virginia, and we actually had to, after he returned, I quit school when I was 11. I was in the 9th grade, and the teacher wouldn't answer my questions, so I go to the principal's office. So I thought it was just a boring thing, so I went out and got a job. I worked as a waitress in Car Hop, and so as soon as Dad got back from the service, he knew we did have to leave West Virginia because I was creating a potential violent situation between the races. So we moved to Texas. And that was another story. I won't go into that. But all of my dreams, so-called dreams, had never seemed like dreams. They were visions of opportunities that have not happened yet. And they're wonderful, and they're sometimes demanding and rewarding. A lot of hard work sometimes. Dreams have feet that walk, and they walk sometimes a very jagged road. So it's not like, oh, I have a dream, come to me. I have a vision I'm going toward. And over, under, around obstacles. But when I have had that vision, it's compelling, and I can choose not to do it. And I have a few times, and I've had a lot of learning opportunities, and some of them have been very rewarding in long run, but not necessarily in the short run. So I just want to always encourage people to have a vision, to understand that it's not just okay to have a vision, I think it's life. It's what life is. If you don't have a vision, I don't know what you'd have. So I think all of us have a vision of some kind. And whether we know it or not, we're working our way through that vision. But I think it's so much fun when you can put it together and have a little bit of a pathway. So this is one of my visions, along with other vision makers. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about it. I'll have it in somewhere sitting so you can see it. Truly, it's Grace Roots Pathways to Wellness, which is a prevention started about 4 years ago as a prevention-minded process. A community in recovery. We are a community in recovery. There is, as everyone I think is very well aware, an opioid. And I'm just going to expand that to substance abuse problem, because we hear a lot about opioids, and we should, because it's a very destructive situation. But substance abuse is a killer, a major, major killer, not just of the life, but of the life we're living. It's very, it's just drains the joy out of the gift of life. So this little tree, which you may not be able to see as a tree, but it's an apple tree, and it has hundreds of apples. It's very full of fruit. I think that's true of all of us. We are all like an apple tree. We're full of fruit. And I don't mean that in a negative way. But this came from a seed. Just a seed has produced hundreds of apples. We have ideas, we have dreams. It just takes one to produce so many outcomes, and we never know. We really, truly never know what all of those are, because they just are, they're just there. You let them go, and they land wherever they land, and they take fruit and grow again. So it's reproducing all the time from one action or one thought or one behavior. This is a baby, a precious newborn, hooked at birth. Comforting newborns. This 5-week-old boy is one of nearly 300 infants a year treated for opioid withdrawal at Cable Huntington Hospital in West Virginia. I didn't purposefully choose that. He sleeps under the soothing touch of his mother, Jordan Thomas, 28, who's in recovery from heroin addiction. Doctors treated the baby with methadone, then weaned him from it. He's gaining weight, sleeping well, and ready to go home. Without this program, I don't know where I'd be, Thomas says. This is another picture, very realistic picture of a baby in withdrawal. And this was a 2009 figure, so as you can imagine what the cost is at this point. The other person, my partner, has the stats, and she's not here, so I'm sharing what I can. The cost of caring for a newborn with withdrawal symptoms, neonatal abstinence syndrome, was estimated to exceed $53,000 per infant in 2009. Now that's the financial cost. That's minimal. The financial cost has just begun for this child. All of the costs that are involved from this situation is unbelievable, astronomical, and I don't think it's ever been calculated, because it goes throughout society. The loss of productivity, the many unknown costs at this point. They are the tiniest infants. These newborns are hard to console. They have excessive diarrhea, they're jittery and irritable. They don't sleep well. They have a distinct cry. It's a wail. It's a heart-rending wail. They have difficulty feeding and gaining weight. The number of drug-dependent newborns rose 5-fold in the last decade. This was in 2009. It's amazing. The number of drug-dependent newborns rose 5-fold in the last decade. Treatment can last a week or stretch into months. The worst thing that can happen for an unborn baby is for the mother to quit taking drugs without medical supervision. There is a greater risk of early labor or even loss of the baby. Researching the long-term consequences is difficult due to other factors. I have this "Go where I send thee" because I think that's what we're all here for. I think each and every one of us, we all have a mission. Every person that's born has a mission. And to be able to go where I send thee is the most rewarding thing that any of us can do, although not always what we perceive as the easiest. Grace Roots, as I said, was based on prevention. One of the first programs was a video to just bring community awareness about the drug dependency problem and how the community could recover. The next project was the Healthy Food Festival, based on holistic lifestyle change. Nutrition and science is finally beginning to catch up. You know, we have common sense that goes about light years ahead of scientific evidence-based projects. And unfortunately, most of the funding is tied to evidence-based. So we're 40 to 50 years sometimes behind the curve, where common sense has said, this is real. This is something that is really reality. And then they say, we have to have evidence-based information. Well, science is catching up. Fortunately, the two graphs on the bottom of the brain, they have for, I don't know, the last 10 years or so, people in the treatment field have been saying that drug addiction is a disease. It's not just a social problem, it's a disease. Well, finally, the scientists are catching up, and it now is recognized scientifically as a disease based on studying the brain. And actually, there's a treatment that's it has gone and is still going through the scientific process. But it's showing amazing recovery, not just potential, but people that have maintained for the first time, some of them having been through treatment 10 or 15 times and relapse within a month, a week, a day of getting out of treatment, that are continuing to stay independent of addiction, because the brain, they have been able to change the brain and therefore change the behavior, that drive that a person has that's undeniable. I mean, it's just beyond our comprehension, fortunately, because it's very, very challenging thing to work with, and it's literally hell for people to live. So this is the good news, and I think it's great news that we're finally, it is a disease, it's recognized as a disease. And what does that do? That puts it in a different category for society and for the individual. and for reality. I mean, it's like diabetes is a disease. It's a recognized medical disease. It can be treated, and people can live a full life. Drug addiction is a disease. And now that we're learning how to address it, the hope is so much greater. Which leads me to Hope House. And that's the next project, the next vision for Grace Roots is Hope House. And Hope House, the vision is to have a home where pregnant women can come, and they will be having, the home is a shelter, a real home where they'll learn how to be a part of a family. They'll have, all the treatment will be out. They'll go for out treatment, but treatment will be provided, wraparound services. We want to get to prevention again. Prevention is so nebulous, but if we can reach and if we can create for this child a new world than what it would have otherwise, a whole new world, one of hope and one of skills and one of love and nurturing, then the world has a gift that if we're going to get the results one way or the other, and we're getting it, we have the school shootings, we have, society is in a turmoil. So we will get results of whatever we're doing. So if we can recreate the positive nurturing of the individual from before birth, that's a start. So this is what we're doing. We're looking for this, the happy, productive child that's going to nurture the world, give the gifts of life to the world. May sound a little bit far off, but I don't think so. I think every individual, we all have that gift, and that child may be the one that has the greatest gift of all to give. So I know my time is up, and I really appreciate being here and being able to kind of share a scattered dream, but it's not really scattered. I think it's reality, except there's a little work to be done. One of the pieces is right here. It takes money. So we're in the process of trying to get some grants and get the community to give the community an opportunity to share in this wonderful revolution. So, any questions? Comments? Nothing? Okay, thank you.